Because I didn't get the last one in. So last time we talked, you've just been... Oh, I remember. We really went through a step-by-step process around the shame about your weight, the anxiety that's projected onto food, the perfectionism of restriction, to the vulnerability of failure, that sense of shame because you failed, the binge that occurs as a form of like, I might as well, right?
Yeah.
Do you get a chance to really, I get to talk to you about just really contemplating it, looking at it, contemplating it. You are like the meditation aspect that you brought into it, which I think is freaking fabulous.
Yeah, I'm starting to be able to differentiate. I'm trying to sort out the differences between eating and moving my body to feel better versus because I got kind of confused in my head about well, if I don't binge eat anymore and I allow myself to eat whatever I want and
without the shame and the guilt, right? Without the shame and the guilt, or fear.
Then what does that mean if I go to the pool or if I eat yogurt or salad? Because there are days where I really do feel better if I eat foods that have less salt.
Is that something that would change if you were 150 pounds less in weight?
No, I don't think so because I do feel like
I think you're. Do you get my point?
Yeah, because I do have arthritis and not eating a lot of salt and stuff, staying away from heavy food seems to help me feel. It just does something. Maybe it's all in my head, but it does.
Well, no. If you actually feel better, and then that's. I mean, the question asked, would that feeling change if you had lost 150 pounds? Would you stop going to the pool if you were 150 pounds less? No. So what do you think the answer should be? It should be irrelevant. Your weight should be irrelevant to that choice. I would go to the pool even if I was 150 pounds less because it feels good. I like the cool. I like to be in the sun. It's a.
It might change because I can do other things because I'm a different size, right now I'm take Pilates.
Okay, so this has nothing to do with swimming so much as it has to do with finding something that you enjoy. And right now, it's something you enjoy. So nothing's going to change in that respect.
Right, and I enjoy, it seems like, like the thought of eating cake all the time, it's not appealing, but it's appealing to eat it sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how I feel about cake. In fact, I had a piece of cake yesterday. The kids made a lemon cake with a sour cream and whipped cream topping with fresh fruit on it. I had a piece. It's the first time I've had cake in a long time. Not that matters, but the thought of eating cake every day is like, it'd be like eating candy every day in large quantities. I can't really handle very much. Plus, I like to have different things. I don't always want cake. Sometimes I like a pie or a cookie, or I like black licorice. Sometimes I want a Jolly Rancher or two. It's like I have such a huge variety of choices because none of it's bad for me. None of it. Mm-hmm. In my belief system.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's like having a sip of brandy once a year versus a sip of brandy 5 times a day.
Exactly. It's like, it's not the brandy. The brandy isn't the problem. If I were to say, okay, you'll never have brandy ever again for the rest of your life, what do you think you're going to do today?
I immediately feel like I need to have some brandy.
Like how much?
Never get to have
You got it. So how much of it would you have? Like the whole friggin' bottle.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
So you can see it's like, well, and then you would imagine someone says to you, oh my God, you're addicted to brandy.
Yeah.
You see the, like, hold on a second. I'm really not. It's the fact that I'm never going to have it again, and I'm trying to get it in right now because I'll never have it again. It has nothing to do with the brandy so much. It is something I enjoy, but I wouldn't necessarily drink it all the time if it wasn't going away. If it wasn't going to be, if there wasn't going to be a famine. So if you observe the behavior around famine and the permanence around famine, don't you agree with dieting? The idea that you should not have cake is permanent. They're never really saying you should have cake and enjoy it when it's a birthday, if you really feel like it. No one says that. Cake is fattening. Cake is bad. Cheetos will cause cancer. It's like never have a bite. They distort it into being catastrophized if you have a small amount, right? Because there's never, you'll notice in that the way people diet is it is perfectionistic. It's all or nothing in that mentality, right? There's never any grace around you can have some cake. You haven't done anything wrong. Having a piece of cake isn't really going to make you gain weight. It's if you eat the whole cake, yes. But you know what I mean? It's like when you get rid of the famine completely and forever, what happens to your desire to eat cake? It goes away.
I don't want it. Yeah, now that I'm not worried about it or know that it's not the enemy or, that I can't ever not have it again. It makes me, it's like, this cake was my favorite thing.
I know. I remember talking to you like a month ago, and you're like, I just can't have it. I can't have it in my house.
Yeah.
And you realize it's like, okay, well, if you can't have it in your house, what's the likelihood that when you do have it, you're going to binge on it? It's 100%.
Right, because it's cake and it's special.
And you can't have it. And it's going away forever. I think it's important to recognize the permanence that might be the trigger, right? The permanence, the thought that I should never have this again, combined with I am a failure. I can't handle it. Those feelings, when you combine them together.
It's such bullshit, isn't it?
Well, I think it's like that right there is so... Isn't that it's like the gas on that creates, it's like that combination of thoughts is like, boom, now we have a binge. I've done something wrong. I have failed. This is fattening, which is the context for why you're restricting, right? Why you have failed. The only reason you failed is relative to I need to lose weight, which makes the food bad based on the belief that you've been told about it. If you eat it, you're a failure. You have failed. You're going to gain weight all of a sudden, and you're never going to have it anymore. Now you're going to eat a whole cake, and you're going to get sick, but you're going to eat it anyways. And keep in mind, too, in combination with those thoughts are, I will never eat it again. I will not buy anymore. I can't have anymore. So I should just eat it all right now because I can't have it around. So eat it all now. When I have people visualize the table of abundance, we've done this before, I'm pretty sure, where you visualize this table full of food. Have we done that?
Yeah.
It's just been a long time, like in our first round of sessions. It's like, imagine that table has every type of donut, every type of cake, every type of pie, all types of breads and pastries. It's got all the meats you could ever think about. All the cheeses, every type of tropical fruit, tree fruit, berries, nuts, legumes. It has, vegetables from everywhere, all in season, all tasting beautifully, and it's overflowing. And and cereal and shit you buy at the grocery store, like chips of every kind, etc. Right? And every time you go to that table, and you choose something you want to eat, it restocks immediately. So if you want a piece of that lemon cake with that whipped cream and sour cream fruit topping, 5 more cakes show up. It's always going to be there. You can always get more. What is the likelihood you're going to sit there and eat the whole cake when you know 5 more are coming?
Yeah, probably not. First of all, now when I think about that, it's like I would do it make me sick.
Uh-huh. Yes. Well, you have firsthand experience with that sickness. You are correct. It would make you sick. Ugh.
Well, it's kind of like, maybe, I don't know if it's because of the state of my body now.
Yes,
like,
that's
when I went
part.
to the potluck, I had like 3 sips of alcohol, and 5 minutes later my face was
bright red.
And I was hot, and I was thought I was going to pass out.
Oh, yeah.
So I ate something
Mm-hmm.
to make me feel better, and then I was okay, but I didn't want any more alcohol.
Yes.
Because I felt like I was, I had all these adverse effects. Like
Yep.
I had,
Yeah.
had something I was allergic to, and everybody else was drinking, and they were fine. But I just,
Mm-hmm.
I had this. So it's kind of like,
Yes.
I get that way.
Yeah.
I noticed that.
Yes,
If I
and
eat better foods than
it's less sensitive. Food that is less powerful. I want you to think of food in terms of like the hormonal power and potential. So foods and drinks that have more hormonal power to the body, you already have all, because your fat is an organ and each cell actually is producing hormones. So each cell of fat that you have, and the larger the fat cell, the more hormones it's producing. So when you compare, let's just say your body and my body, which body is producing more hormones?
mine.
You got it. And you and I could eat the same apple. I'm going to eat an apple and you're going to eat an apple. And who's going to have higher insulin levels and higher leptin levels and higher, all of the levels that are affected by those cells and how they respond to a stimulus? You are.
So that means that when I lose fat, then it changes.
It will. Yeah. Yeah. But all you need to do is focus on how your body's responding at your current size. If you and I would have the same exact response, it would take me 5 apples. 5 apples. And I would have the same flushing, the same hormonal symptoms of a hot flash, or it would take me 3 cocktails to get that way. Whereas because your body is so sensitive and those are it doesn't take very much. So we both have the same equilibrium. It just takes you 3 sips and it would take me 3 whole bottles of liquor or 3 drinks versus 3 sips. I have the same response as you do. It just takes more. The benefit is that you're not drunk and I'm wasted. Your body inflamed a lot faster. You had that kind of inflammatory reaction, so you didn't get drunk. I didn't have that inflammatory reaction, but my brain is now swimming in alcohol.
So that's why foods that are considered
More powerful. Think in terms of volume. Because it takes more. So if you ate more, let's just say low volume food, you're still going to get inflamed if you eat more. If you get to that point. Make sense? So you could eat salad and have, instead of 3 bites, you could have of a taco, you could have 10 bites of taco salad and you're still going to hit that point where you start to get red and flushed. You just have to listen to whatever you choose, whether it's a piece of cake, a taco, a sushi roll, a bowl of cereal. You have to listen to that response and stop. So the goal is that you get to taste and enjoy and experience the food and have the pleasure without all the pressure of shame and guilt and self-loathing because of some diet religion out there shaming you. So you can have that cake. It's just like drinking that alcohol. And you might notice it's different too when you get more sun exposure, when you get less sun exposure. All of the environment that our bodies experience can affect that response. when you exercise, it may make it more sensitive or less sensitive, depending on how you feel. And where you are in your menstrual cycle, if you're going to menstruate, if you're menopausal, it changes things. So women who are menopausal will have that experience, even if they're my size. But they may not be listening to that, because that in their diet, they get to have 3 drinks, but they might have that experience at 3 sips and not realize, oh, I'm really sensitive. I should probably stop. They're thinking, oh my God, I'm menopausal, I'm having a hot flash. Not realizing, well, you really only needed 3 sips to hit that equilibrium or that balance point. But instead, you drank 2 glasses because that's just what you do. And you overrode what your body's signaled to it because you're sensitive. Am I confusing you, or does this all make sense?
No, it makes sense.
So
they're all messed up because I don't have normal periods anymore.
Well, I want you to think of it a little differently. They're not messed up. They're actually have adjusted to your previous way of eating.
So that's why it changes when I do eat like a lot less.
Yes, you'll notice
It's
big.
like
You got it. You got it. So it's not messed up. The body has actually done what it needed to do to keep you alive under those circumstances. All of the body fat had to be there to keep you alive under the circumstance. And now it's like it's used to that. And now we're taking it and you're honing in on, well, what is the message? What is the message? And the message is you need to hibernate. You should be in hibernation, but you're not. We don't hibernate like bears. So you can feel like, okay, my whole body is super sensitive. I had 3 sips of that and boom, my body was like, you're good. You've had enough. Like you hit that level where everything is going to work great. So if you have more, now think of it like a rainbow, and the top of the rainbow is like the balance point. Those 3 sips, you hit the rainbow. You hit the top. And you could tell it was starting to go to the other side. You could feel the whole body kind of start to respond, right? Because your whole body, every cell of fat in your body responded. So again, 3 drinks for you would take 3 glasses for me. Either way, if I don't listen to that, I'm going to have that same exact reaction. It's not necessarily the food. It's the food plus quantity. And relative to your menstrual cycle, where you are, how much sun exposure, how little and more or too much sleep you've gotten. If you don't get enough sleep, you're going to find that it'll take more food. When you get adequate sleep, it takes less food. It's amazing to me. So imagine.
I sleep a lot. Like today, I'm tired all the time.
Well, you just need to work with what it is. And when was the last time you actually binged? It doesn't matter to me. I really don't care. I'm just wondering around time. Like, when was the last binge you had? Do you remember?
I don't. Saturday, I ate too much, but it wasn't like a full.
Okay, that's different, and you and I both know that. Like a binge. When was the last binge where you hurt yourself?
Oh, it's been a while. It's been like a week or so.
Congratulations. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
By the way, because we're not doing anything. You're not withholding anything. It doesn't take any work. You haven't had to work hard. So your body's probably just it's like a pendulum swing. It's like it accommodates to expect all the food because you've done it enough, long enough, consistently enough. And then all those hormones have to readjust when the food doesn't show up. Again, hibernation. I want you to think, well, my body is responding like a bear's does in hibernation. So there's nothing really wrong here. It's just the body seeking equilibrium now that you're not binging when it was hormonally expecting a binge. So the thyroid is probably setting really low to accommodate. What happens when you eat like a binge is the thyroid is extremely stimulated. Extreme. Because those hormones coming from your fat actually send a message to turn the thyroid up. which is where that the extreme kind of hyper heart palpitations, that anxiety feeling that comes up, that's the thyroid turning up. And so when someone binges a lot, my assumption is that the thyroid sets much lower to compensate. So it's like running on zero. Like we need to be at zero to get ready for a huge lightning bolt shift from a binge. I don't know if that's making sense, but the whole body is doing that. So my point is, some of your symptoms may be right now something that is we need to get excited about. This is good. Even if you're tired, it's like, okay, the body is actually putting you in a state of hibernation. Do the best you can with what you got with it. If it takes 3 drinks for you to feel flushed, pause, or 3 sips. Listen to it. You did a great job. A+, Heather, A+.
Well, I hardly ever drink alcohol. I just drink it because they have this thing.
Yeah. Well, and you might have an allergic reaction to whatever grain that was in it. Who knows? And who cares? You responded beautifully to that. To feel it and honor it. And not demonize it. You don't demonize the food because there's so much influencing that response. So much going on to how the body responds to any type of food.
Well, alcohol has never been really an issue. Like I respond normally to. I don't have meals without drinking. So
No.
I don't know why, because it does have calories, but I still don't have meals around that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, imagine if you did. What would happen? I should never drink again. Well, what's going to happen the moment you say that?
Yeah, now I say I don't drink, but it's because I don't like how it makes me feel.
Yeah. Oh my God. See, now this brings me to that other conversation, which is that's how you're going to respond whether you're 150 pounds or 300 pounds. If it doesn't feel good, you wouldn't do it. So is this a diet that you're on? No. This is just a way of being with the body that's irrelevant to your weight. It's just you're existing with how it's responding in the moment of how it is. So even if you lose 150 pounds, you're going to continue to do that. You might not have the same sensitivity, but you'll still listen to that response. So when I go out to dinner and I'm eating out and I spend money and I'm drinking some wine and I'm getting appetizers and I've got food in front of me, what determines how much I eat isn't the cost of the food. It isn't the taste of how good it is. It isn't any of it. It's how my body's responding. I do not want to be sick. So what I do is I prioritize what tastes good and to try to fit it into that sense of, it's really an avoidance of that that feeling that you're describing. It's a feel. It's like, I don't like that feeling. I don't want that feeling. I'm going to eat a combination of I don't even know what. But when my body is like done, I'm done. I'm not going to finish the glass of wine. I don't want to get drunk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Very similar way. That's an awesome comparison for you. Well, not just if you had to move furniture, and I told you that one, right?
Yeah, that one's helpful too.
Let me repeat that. It's the idea is that when you eat and you sit down, it's clearly you're hungry. The body's showing signs of, my head hurts. I'm tired. I need some energy. You sit down to eat. It tastes delicious. You need to have in your mind, when to stop. A good gauge is the idea or thought that if you had to go move boxes and furniture and move a house, how much food would you eat knowing that as soon as you're done, you're going to go and move furniture and boxes and you're going to be back and forth and working on a farm or something like that? Do you want to be so full that you're in pain? Do you want to even be so full that you're burping? How full do you want to be in that circumstance? You really don't want to be full. You just want to you want to eat enough that you feel energized and you feel like, okay, I could last 2 to 3 hours working and then I can always come back to this food after moving furniture, right? So that's a gauge that gives people kind of like, oh, I know what that would feel like. The other way to think about it is like getting drunk. if you don't want to get drunk, because you don't need to, right? Compared to someone who might get drunk to escape their world, escape their shit, run and hide, kind of like how you felt with fullness before.
Yeah.
You would listen to how your body responded, and you could have a whole margarita in front of you, and someone just paid for you to have a shot. Are you going to drink it anyways?
No.
Exactly. So you just go, oh, I don't care how much I spend on that. I can't finish this because if I do, I'm going to be hungover tomorrow, or I'm going to be drunk. I'm going to start slurring my words.
Yeah, I give it to somebody.
Me too. I take the shot glass and go, thanks. You know, pour it to the side.
Yeah.
Anyways, so it sounds like you're really getting in touch with this sense. The physical sense, you're getting in touch with it.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot better. It's just that trying to figure out everything as far as, you know, because I really don't like eating junk food. But I like to know that, but at the same time, if I don't eat it, then I feel, you know, it kind of brings me back. I'm just trying to get away from the feelings that bring me back into binging.
Yeah, like the shame, like judging yourself.
It's just a change, and it's not, you know, it's not just understanding it's, you know, I can't really explain what you've been telling me, so I know that means that I don't really completely understand.
It doesn't matter. You don't have to. Let me tell you something. I grasp certain things, and I have a hard time explaining it. I really get a grasp of it. It's just, there's so much engaged with it. It's not like a linear concept where this plus this equals that. There's like this plus this, and we add this and this, and then we add this direction, plus we're going to tilt it, and then it equals that. That's why I think it's a syndrome. Yeah. It's like, this is why medication's not going to help you worth a shit. I mean, antidepressants are not going to get you to stop. It's really a matter of it's like a wheel that has spokes, right? And we got to remove the spokes to detach the center from the actual outside, right? We got to unravel it. And so one of the spokes is shame. I've done something wrong with food. So the next spoke is, you know, again, my weight I have to fix my weight. There's shame with your weight. There's something wrong with me. My weight makes me a bad person. My weight, you know, there's that. Then I'm a victim. Poor me. My life sucks. That's another spoke, right? So there's all these things in combination. Like, for example, if let's just say you went back into, my body is ugly and I hate it and I need to lose weight.
Right.
Now all of a sudden you're positioned to then say, well, that food is bad and I can't eat it. So there's that permanence around, I can never eat it. If I do, I will gain weight. So then what happens to the desire to eat it?
Then you want to eat it because you know you're never going to eat it.
Yeah, and then this is the last supper mentality.
Yeah.
So I got to eat it all right now. And then you have more shame. And then you have more pressure to restrict. I mean, you can see that it's not just one linear thing. It's like the circular moving thing with multiple. It's like juggling. It's not one ball going back and forth. It's 3 to 4 balls going back and forth in unison and in timing with each other, right? So, like I said, you don't. Go ahead.
When you first hear that, though, it's like, yeah, because, you know, when you've been told your whole life that, you know, it's your fault and blah, 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 and you hear that, at first it sounds like, you know, yeah, that would be nice to believe that. That's not really true. And then it's like the more you think about it, you know, you realize, well, yeah, it is true. And then you really realize it's true. And then when people start, you know, telling you the same shit they've always told you, then it kind of brings you back. So then you have to keep, but then as you go, I say you, but I mean me.
Yes.
As I go along, it's like, because then when I started to hear that shit from people, it starts to make me angry instead of, you know, getting pulled back into it as much. kind of angry because it is pulling back, kind of angry because they're not right, but not knowing how to articulate, how they are, my point of view. So, the more I go along, it's like, now I can say to that person, well, there's a different. You can be fat and healthy. There are people that are fat and healthy.
Yes.
But, it doesn't mean that you can't take care of yourself and still not be at a certain body weight. And even if you are at a certain body weight, it doesn't mean that you're not trying to take care of yourself because you eat. I saw a movie the other night where it was a movie with not Annette Bening, but Ashley Judd, and there was a scene in the movie where the guy was explaining how he was turned off by this girl that he was in a relationship with, and he came home and one day that she had opened he came in and she was standing at the refrigerator and she had the freezer open and she was eating ice cream out of the pint instead of the bowl, and Ashley screamed at him, how can you be mad at a woman, a non-fat woman eating ice cream? So even her comeback was still insulting to someone. Like, so what? Like, totally. A non-fat person, she said.
Yep. Yeah, so you're seeing the culture of thin supremacy. That's like, people don't see it. It's kind of like racism people didn't see for a long time, and many people don't still see it because they are, some degree, believing in it, They might not even know it.
Yeah.
So,
like how that show Dietland is on. It's a new show about.
I heard about it.
Canceled. But I was posting about it and talking about it, and there's absolutely no interest in it from anyone because it pretty much promotes, what you've been saying all along, which is, it's almost like because the character, is going through this process where she, realizes that, being overweight is not
a sin.
That it's not like this fantasy of being thin is not going to keep her safe from being rejected or blah blah blah. And anyway, it's nobody's really. There's not a lot to talk about it. Like I don't see people talking about it or even interested in it. But to me, it's like.
Okay.
It's like another therapy session.
So what I want you to do is I want you to talk about it in that Patreon account because I have had like 4 different clients bring it up to me.
Okay.
And keep in mind I know the concept of food addiction is a concept, right? You understand that it's not about the food. It's clearly you're conscious about the food and it feels like an addiction to food. But now can you see that it's not about surrendering food so much as it's surrendering thinner supremacy and allowing yourself to be relieved and given grace around the shame you carry about your weight, right? So it's really about body image addiction versus the food addiction. Anyways, you're probably more advanced in terms of your awareness than what you're seeing in that show, just so you know.
Well, I think it's been helpful. It's kind of like been a supplement.
Yes. I'm happy for you. That's good.
It's helped me to see, like, just another way of kind of like supplemental material almost. It's really good. It's a really good show, and there's like several plots going on, but I think there's this group called Jennifer that is killing. They started out killing men that were accused of raping women but got away with it. They really did it. And then it got worse, but I think the other plot kind of helps. It's like a subliminal way of showing the viewer that to become more accepting around the injustices that are, or the society's acceptance of how women are treated if they don't look a certain way.
Yeah, like we're to conform. Like we have to conform to these standards. And those standards are then given ownership of our sense of worth as a person. You know, that is very similar to what you're trying to recover from, which is all the shame about your weight really is in relation to the idea that thinnerness is where valuable people, what they are and how they exist. And to see that as flawed and wrong and the source of the shame that is actually stimulating the binge eating, it really is empowering to say, I don't have to feel bad about this. And you can look at the shame and say, well, the shame is why I've gotten as large as I have.
Yeah, that's definitely, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing that I've, learned from you is that the shame, I never realized that, how much shame that I had, or that it was it was not okay for me to feel that way. Like, I thought it was appropriate for me to feel the shame.
Yeah. Well, that's why you have been so self-destructive, because you actually thought I should be ashamed of myself. So that's actually, once again, you are verifying to me the Stockholm Syndrome concept, or battered wife syndrome, which is why I don't think it's a disease. I think it's a syndrome. This body image belief is a syndrome. When a person who is in a cult, for example, believes if I sin, I deserve this punishment. Once the person who's in that cult believes that, they don't need someone to punish them because they punish themselves.
Yeah, I definitely think that's part of my binge eating.
Yeah.
That punishing. I eat more to punish myself.
I punish myself. And so you would never tolerate that from another human being because it would be obvious abusiveness. But the belief around I deserve to be isolated, I deserve to be starved, I deserve every punishment I get that I'm doing is a sign of a syndrome, like a cult mentality syndrome. Thin supremacy syndrome.
Well, except the cult is our society, so it's kind of hard to not see it.
I know.
It's kind of hard to see it.
You got it. You got it. That's what the research is showing. That because it's so accepted, it's very elusive and it's hard. And we don't call it church, right? It's, I need to lose weight. So it's to actually identify it as a cultural concept is really important for you and everybody who's listening to this video, and anybody that works with it is trying to recover, is to see this concept of thin supremacy is just a belief. And a lot of people believe it. And your mom believed it. And that age and day too, by the way, I mean, your mom was she was probably 1940s, 1950s, part of that. That is really where this narcissism was born, and it was really kind of evolved and exploded in the 80s. The narcissistic consumerism that in the diet industry was massive, and shame around your weight and this promotion of worship, really the worshiping of thinness.
Well, my mom was my grandmother was kind of like that, but my mother was a type 1 diabetic.
Yeah, so she had real fear.
I mean, she had to follow a big plan.
Oh, of course.
Measured and stuff. So
yeah, so you bring
and she was like that since she was 14. So for me to not follow a diet, she couldn't understand that. I don't think she wasn't a normal eater anyway because of her health. Yeah,
she had to be pretty militant around it. And I mean, you can look at everything that's been in play here and actually see that this is understandable. What has happened is understandable.
Yeah.
It just gives the whole thing this mercy. You give mercy, dear. When do you deserve mercy? Well, I think you deserve it now. You've deserved it for a long time. But no one is going to give you that mercy. I want to talk about this really quick. When you were talking about this steps of you kind of learning, well, maybe it is my fault. And then you get back into your friends talking about it. And you're kind of angry about it. I think that's really relevant, that there's kind of steps that in stages for you, how this has become more and more conscious. The next stage I want you to recognize is that you do not need anybody's approval. to do what you need to do from what you're aware of. And you don't need other people to be aware as you and me for you to make progress. What you're going to find is that you're going to become more aware and conscious of this issue because you're working at it. You've paid a lot of money to get coaching and to evolve, right? This isn't cheap counseling. It's expensive coaching.
But it was worth it.
Girl, you see what I'm saying? And everybody around you isn't doing this. And so you need to give them grace and know this is so complicated and the average mind isn't going to get it. Especially the average mind that hasn't suffered the way you have, And so what I want to encourage you to think about is that you don't need to get someone's approval to continue to do what is working for you.
Yes, you're right.
And you can forgive them for just not really getting it. And so what I've learned is when I talk to people who are super diet minded, super brainwashed by thin supremacy, is I just smile and go, oh, that's cool. They have no idea what I do. They have no idea. I don't need to be telling them you're wrong. I don't need to do anything. That would be like telling some evangelical that they're referencing something that is, encouraging molestation. I don't need to do that. I can just let them believe what they believe.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I don't need to be anti. I can just let people be where they're at. I don't have to convince them to change that. And I don't have to, convince someone how I recovered. When someone comes to me and I have had a lot of people come to me and pay the money and they want to argue why they shouldn't do what I'm telling them to do.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
And I have turned them away.
I think I've done that.
I know. Remember, there was about 5 sessions ago. I was like, I don't know if this is going to work for you. You know what I mean? And and you know what? If you want to recover, you have to keep this in mind. It's like when someone's telling you what you're doing is wrong and you should care about your health and all that, you just look at them and go, you know what? That's so true. So true. And you leave it. You hand it to them. You're so right. I should really think about my health.
That's what I run into. It's like I try to stay away from conversations at all because everybody's on a diet. And
I know, and you're really sensitive.
There's just no way out of the conversation. I just changed. I think you told me to change the subject, so that's what I've been doing. Yeah,
or you just go, oh, wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, no, it's everywhere. Do you remember when we first worked together and I had talked to you like you have diet PTSD. You have diet PTSD, right?
Yeah.
So you might have, and I'm not saying that's as a fact, but because you're still processing through it, because you're still trying to figure this out, when people bring up diets, I could see you like, ugh.
It is. It's like I don't want to get into those conversations because I'm still trying to.
You're still trying to quit.
It's permanent in my brain, and so I don't want them to take me away from what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well,
so if I talk about it, if I talking about it and telling them the truth helps me process it.
Yeah.
Makes me stronger. So I do like those people who listen to me.
Good. Well, I like that I like that aspect. But what I want you to start doing is recognizing they don't have to understand what I'm saying. They might find it interesting. They might find it like totally backwards, which it is, by the way. It's very counterintuitive for me to say you can eat anything you want, no shame, no guilt. And for you to have a week of no binging because of that.
Yeah, I even had one night where I ordered pasta with cheese, and I ordered it, and when you order a delivery, you have to get enough for the minimum order. Mm-hmm. And so instead of eating the whole thing, the whole 2 orders, I ate 1 order, and then I put the rest of it in the refrigerator and ate it the next day.
Yeah, right.
And I've never done that before.
So So you're learning how this feels. It's kind of counterintuitive, but can you believe that this is so easy, really? So do you need to get someone's approval to do what is working for you?
No, I don't. I don't need approval, but it does help to have reinforcement.
Yeah.
It does help to have someone to talk to, because otherwise, I feel like I'm in a, I still need someone to talk to, or at least, like that show helps. And,
yes, good.
There's other stuff you can read.
Gosh, go into the Patreon account. I know it's not super active, because I really am trying to write. I actually wrote a few thousand words yesterday, people. It's awesome.
I can't wait till you write your book.
I am writing it. I'm actively writing it. It's like, it would be super nice to get this published, but I've realized I'm writing 2 at one time, and it's spreading out the time. But because what's
I
in
hope it's a bestseller instead of those 6 million, those other diet books.
Here's how I feel about it. I want people like yourself to find it and to read it and to feel hope.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't need it to be a bestseller. I don't care about that. I really want people to open their mind to go, oh my God, I never questioned my shame. I never questioned how bad I feel about myself. I never even thought to think that maybe I'm a wonderful person. Ever. And does it really matter how big my butt is? Does that really matter?
Yeah.
Only if you wanted to.
Ask you, not to change the subject, but I am. But so when you were talking about the hormonal,
yes,
this just popped in my head. When you talk about the hormonal issues, could that be why I'm swelling?
Yes, it could be. It could be your whole body has been, like I said, your whole body has acclimated to preparing for a binge. Prepare. And it's like, it's like how you would prepare to, if you knew your house was going to be covered in snow, you would barricade things, you would do all sorts of stuff. So it's got all this protective response, but you're actually not doing it anymore. So it would be understandable why you would have some of these symptoms. Like your body's trying to get you to eat because that's what it's been conditioned to do. So when you're tired, just make sure you don't eat, even though you're thinking potentially, oh, if I eat, I'll feel better. Well, unless you're hungry, just know that it might take a week or 2 for you to really start feeling energized, because your body is preparing for binging. So your body, because you're not binging, may be starting to show signs of hibernation, which means your fat is fueling your body. Your need for food is going to be 3 bites of an apple compared to my 7 whole apples. Right? A bear with much less fat is extremely hungry, more willing to hunt. Think of it that way.
But the swelling though, is the swelling be caused by the inflammation or the?
Yeah, it could be a variety of things. Could be your heat, temperature. Could be the need for, it could be vascular, poor circulation. If you want to go to the doctor, you can. I know you've seen a doctor, so my suggestion is see if the swimming helps. See if the swimming helps. I don't know. Have you taken your blood pressure lately?
Yeah, I take blood pressure medicine now, and I don't have any vascular problems.
Okay, so do you think this might be a symptom from the blood pressure meds?
No, it was before the blood pressure meds.
Yeah.
It was kind of. I just wondered if you have. I mean, I went to the doctor and I had to show him my leg. One of my legs was kind of like lymphedema, but it's not like regular lymphedema. Because my ankles are skinny and my feet are skinny, but my legs, my thighs
swollen.
my thighs and down in my chin are have more fluid in them, but and then my whole when I go swimming, when I swim every day, it's less. So
Okay, see, that to me sounds like you need to move your body. You need to move your body. Get in the pool.
Yeah.
Get in the pool.
Okay.
And don't obsess about it. Just be patient and be kind to yourself.
Okay. Well, I know you have the whole background with your whole.
I do, but I'm really good at what I was telling you. That I feel like there's so much science, and people lose sight of the forest for the trees when it comes to the science.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're micromanaging your mitochondria, and they forgot about the whole psyche of the human, I see this a ton in the diet industry. They're micromanaging these tiny little microscopic things, and they don't realize that you're not being realistic anymore. But anyway, so yeah. Have you read Weight Loss Apocalypse? Do you have that?
I read it and I started it. I know there was a bunch around. I didn't read all of it. I had it on my phone.
Okay, so there's a couple of chapters where I really go into detail about that kind of hormonal response.
Okay.
The user-friendly version of the hypothesis. Look at. I can't remember the chapter. Where's my book? I don't know if I have a book in here.
I did listen to one of your videos where you talked about the HCG and how it cured PCOS, and I got all excited.
Okay, well, you and I would not suggest that for you right now. It's just not, no. We are just recovering. No.
Right.
That would be the worst thing for you. It would be the worst thing for you right now. Like, horrible. So, no, of course not. You're not a good candidate. I wouldn't worry about it. You don't need it, to be honest with you. If you keep on listening to your body, you're on the friggin' protocol because you're not hungry and you're super inflammatory. So it's not even appropriate, but just kind of understanding why it only takes that much. It's like, oh, well, my body's in balance. It's in balance if I eat to when hunger's gone, and I do that consistently, it doesn't matter how much it is, because it's going to change, right? The amount of food it's going to take to stimulate those hormones from your fat is going to change depending on you working out, getting in the sun. Sun exposure changes that. Lack of sleep, too much sleep, pressure gradients coming in, weather change. Like if there's a huge lightning storm coming in, that's going to impact your body's hormones. If you drive 8 hours into a different area of the U.S. with a totally different weather pattern, that's going to cause water retention, and inflammation. Your menstrual cycle. So there's so many things that can impact how your fat responds to food. So,
gotcha.
Yeah, so that's why it's like, just listen to hunger, because either way, that is a very good indication of what really is necessary with food to maintain that balance. So 1 week you might notice, oh, I could eat that whole serving of pasta that I had delivered. Whereas the next week you order the same exact thing and you could hardly finish half of it. It's like, oh my God, if I finish the other half, I'm going to be sick. Well, you put it away and you can eat it later. I know for myself, there's times during my menstrual cycle, like today, I wasn't hungry until like 1 o'clock today. Yes, like a week ago, I was hungry at 9 in the morning, 11 o'clock, 2 o'clock. It was a little annoying, to be honest with you. It changes. It changes too. I injured my back. I re-slipped a disc. Having an injury can impact your body's inflammation and how sensitive your body is to eating. Having illness, sickness. If you're sick or have a flu, there's a reason why you're not hungry for days on end. Mm-hmm. Not just because you might be nauseous, but even if you just have a slight fever, you're going to notice, I'm just not hungry. How is that? Well, because your body is fueling from fat, because your gut needs to have nothing in it. Yeah. And do we really need to know how this works to just listen to it?
No.
I know. So you.
No, it's just, I haven't done it in so many years. It's gotten like a foreign concept. Oh, listen to your body.
What?
Maybe that would be the answer.
Well, I think it's really exciting because for the first time, what I think it does and what it did for me when I recovered is the hunger skill gave me separation from controlling and managing everything. It was the body's will. You remember that language?
Yeah.
This is the body's will. And if I want freedom, I'm not going to do what I want anymore because my will is really fucked up because I wanted to be thin and shit like that. So I said, I will do what the body's will is because I have to face the reality of the body as it is, what it is genetically, how it's supposed to be, and that ultimately will give me freedom from managing it ever. I just need to accept what it is. So if it says I'm hungry, I will eat. The only thing I get to choose is what sounds good to me. And even then, what do you think's controlling the palate? Is it me or is it the body that's changing the mouth to impact the pleasure center of the brain and guiding to some degree what I choose based on memory? The body. The body's even is making those decisions. It's freaking nuts. It's like I can't even claim what I'm craving. So by just allowing that to happen, you're going to find it is so free. It is so freeing. You literally have nothing to do but wait till you're hungry, listen to what sounds good, eat enough for that hunger to go away, and have other things to do, and think about other things, and do other things, and fill your life full of pleasure and fun. As best you can with what you got.
Yeah, it's a very different way of living.
It's called freedom. It is extremely different. It's almost like it's. I'm just really excited for you. I'm really proud of what you've done so far. I do want you to know that if you binge again, that's okay. This is a learning process. Something may come up that you weren't expecting, and you might go back into justifying the food to protect you from an emotion. Just stay in the center of the process and let it unfold as it needs to, right? I want to give you grace to say nothing has to be perfect. Just stay true to your integrity, to your willfulness to be kind. I love, love, love that is your meditation, to be kind. So simple, right? So simple. And that's maybe like a touchstone for you, like a form of consciousness that can help you breathe and make decisions when it feels like drama, chaos, and darkness is everywhere. Be kind. What's the kind answer? Focus in that area. I'm really proud of you. I'm really proud of everything that you've done up until this point. Every part of it, every aspect of our work together from over a year ago, even your time not working with me, every single aspect of your recovery process is valiant and inspiring, and you just need to keep on kicking ass. Nope. Like I said, there's no pressure. You can binge if you want. I don't care, but you know what I mean? It's just, I just want you to know that I hope you feel this for yourself. I hope you feel this for yourself. And it's not like,
I definitely feel a change.
Good. It's not inflated pride. I'm not saying that. It's like, you're doing it. You're doing it, Heather. And you're doing it. I'm not doing it. You're doing it. Whatever it is, you're doing it.
It's very, very exciting. I might live a few more years. But...
You might not. The cat's going to get you tomorrow. You never know.
That's true.
So you might as well just enjoy where you're at right in the moment. You're doing great.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, no pressure, man. Just stay in the present moment of where you're at. And just keep on contemplating. I want you to contemplate, do I need other people to know? Do I need their permission? I do want you to know that this was a big part of my recovery too. This decision right here, this moment, realizing, do I want to have to explain this to someone, and how can I? I don't even know really what's happening anyway. So, should I have to explain this to someone so that they're okay with what I'm doing for my life?
No. When you put it that way, yeah.
I'm going to put it that way again. Hear it again. Should I really have to get permission from someone else to approve of what I need to do for my life?
No.
Doesn't that sound crazy? Like, why would you need someone else's approval to do what you believe and what you know at this point is the best thing to do for you? It's not like you need to proselytize and tell them they have to do what you're doing. You don't need to convince them. You don't have to change them. What's the likelihood you're going to get to change them? You know how hard it's been for me to just get you to listen to me? And you paid me a lot of money.
Yeah, well, I was just so, at times I get really confused, so.
And that's part of the process. It is confusing, especially when you're going back to old thoughts and I'm showing you a new thought. You go back to an old thought, and those old thoughts, what do you think is going to happen if you go back there? What's going to happen?
Well, then I'll go backwards.
Well, you'll start binging again. I don't know if that's backwards. It just means that you have more to learn. You have more to figure out around why you shouldn't go back there. Like, it's kind of like the battered wife syndrome. It's like and I have a friend who actually did have this situation, and it was as clear cut as a marriage. This isn't as clear cut, but it's almost identical, right? She would come back, be like, oh my God, he threw me into the tub and took the shower and sprayed me, had a fist and almost punched me in the face, Robin. And then he felt bad, and I think everything's better. And then, oh my God, I found out he's cheating on me. I don't know what to do. And then she'd come back and go, well, we're going to counseling. Everything's better. And it happened for years. If you go back, it's because you still think that there's a fantasy marriage, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Like you haven't seen yet.
That's interesting that you compare it to that, because I never really understood that.
Like when I say battered wife syndrome?
Yeah.
No, that's what it is. You keep on going back to the diet industry and thin supremacy. It's the biggest asshole abusive system ever. Well, I take that back. There's probably worse out there. But I don't know, a religious ideology that tells you should starve and be skinny to be valued sounds pretty shitty to me. Right? But I went back. I wanted to be valued. I need to lose weight. Okay.
Well, look at Oprah, for God's sake.
Oh, she's got it too. She's got it too. Don't think she doesn't. She does.
Yeah, I know. Told her she had battered wife syndrome. She would look at you like you were nuts.
Yes, she would. Because she doesn't question the asshole belief system of thin supremacy. She hasn't even woken up to it yet. It's hard to see. It's not easy to see because it is so accepted. Again, this is very similar to racism. There's, generations of people who are racists. And I'm not saying it's wrong to be a racist, because to me, first I've evolved out of that, but there's a point to separation. That's a survival mechanism. It's a sign you don't feel safe with yourself. So you're trying to create similarity with people to feel safe. That might be. So I'm not saying that it's a great idea, but it serves a purpose for people stuck in that survival mechanism around feeling inadequate and inferior, and to create a concept of superiority with people with the like looks. Again, that's superficiality around looks. What's the difference between that and thin supremacy?
Nothing.
You got it. That's why I call it thin supremacy. It's pervasive and it's very elusive around the fact that people they haven't seen that yet. So what I find funny is when I talk to people about, a lot of people ask, what do you do? And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know how to tell people what I do. Besides, I help functioning adults with eating disorders. That's what I say. Everyone's like, oh my God, are you a therapist? No, I'm not. Thank God, because I would have to follow so many rules. Right. But, and then my friends are like, oh, but she writes. And I'm like, oh my God, I've only written one book, but I am writing another book. I'm really excited about it. And it's called Thin Supremacy. Like, and I go into the culture of thin supremacy, and these people's jaws drop because they go, oh my God, I've never thought of it that way. It is so true. Oh my God. Do you have a patent on that name, or have you trademarked it? And I'm like, you know what I mean? It's like, even just hearing the concept of thin supremacy is very awakening. Oh my God. It is so true. We literally symbolize thinner people as superior people. And if you're fatter, you're inferior. It's no different than the whiter your skin, the more sacred, the blacker your skin, the more devilish. It is disgusting. But survival mode. It's very archaic, low animal brain survival mechanisms.
Well, it's kind of obvious, like when you look at weight loss before and after, people are like, oh, you look so great. Nobody ever questions, like, are you saying I look like shit before?
Well, there's that, but are you assuming that I am actually happier right now? Because most people aren't. They're depleted, deprived, repressing all these urges to binge, or they're hiding their binge eating and purging or doing new things to try to maintain the facade of success.
Yeah.
It's very rare to find someone who lost a bunch of weight and is actually happier. They might have a temporary sense of happiness, but it requires like an insane amount of work to hit that point. They found that with narcissists, pathological narcissists, they do have the ability to feel love. It just requires the perfect environment for them to actually feel it, because they're in love with that environment. They're not actually in love with the person. They're in love with their fake boobs and their fake hair and their emaciated body. And they love the persona that it's created. So they have an experience of love with the idea of the look of the person. They don't actually like the person. That's how the diet industry works. It is. No, it is. That's not just an opinion. There's science backing that around the epidemiology of like the mental health crisis in the United States. Suicide, depression, shame in this culture is huge. Eating disorders have the highest morbidity rate of all mental illnesses. Did you know that? That means more death and disease caused by eating disorders than any other mental health problem.
Wow.
The amount of people checking into recovery centers has gone up 6 times in the last 10 years. 6 times.
Do you know what states? Like, is it
the entire United States. It's the...
What states in the United States?
All of them. So, I don't know, but the whole United States, the recovery centers that do exist, which there's not many, are showing 6 times the amount.
I think we're over our time.
We are, but I'm excited to talk about this. You're not going to cut me off. I'm talking about something I like.
Okay. I just want to know.
Yeah, no, the statistic I read is that it's the United States as a whole. You know, because people checking in are going to Minnesota, Emily Clinic. You know, they might not be from Minnesota. They're coming from, you know, all over. Yeah, so, or California. If someone from Arizona is in California going to that recovery clinic. You know, Florida. They might be coming from Georgia to Florida. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was just wondering, because I looked up one day I was bored and I looked up the happiest places to live, where people are the happiest.
Yeah, Minnesota.
And Montana was up there too.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I started looking at pictures from Montana, and I was like,
so
my
beautiful.
God, I have to go there. I've never been to it. And I saw the pictures of the, they call it the Big Sky something.
Oh yeah, Big Sky Country.
I was like, oh my God, that's beautiful. I mean, there was a picture of the house, like you looked out the window, and there were all these mountains, like just like everywhere, and I was just like, man, I had to go there before I died.
Yeah, no, Montana's gorgeous. The whole Rocky Mountain kind of side. I live near the mountains as well. Now, Montana is lush. You know, as you go north and you get up into closer to Canada, it's like, oh my God, it's amazing. Oh, so beautiful. You know, Minnesota is really beautiful too. I'm really biased to Minnesota, but because I live there. But Minnesota's up there in that list. If you look, it's Montana, then Minnesota. Anyways.
Yeah, I saw a picture of a big waterfall. I think it was Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And then Oregon, they had the beaches in Oregon. They had the mountains and the beaches in the same place.
Yeah, they do. No, it's beautiful. California, I think, is gorgeous as well. It's just overpopulated and the traffic is horrible.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I don't know. But anyway, I was wondering if the culture, like, because I know Montana looks like the big ranching.
Yeah.
Ranching community, and I was wondering if the culture is different. Like, I know the Midwest culture is different from
Totally.
the South.
Totally.
So I wondered if that had anything to do with the eating disorder rate, in the different sections of the segments of the
Well,
versus.
here would be my assumption. There's the religious belt is going to have a very high occurrence of eating disorders. But, you know, we can look at California and go, well, that's not really religious, but their body image is the religion in that culture, right?
Yeah.
So anything that is perfectionistic, narcissistic, self-centered, self-preserving, you can go any state that is highly survival-oriented and narcissistic in their nature is going to have a higher incidence of mental health. You know, Utah has the highest mental health problems right now, I'm pretty sure. Like, they have the most depression. The suicide rate is like skyrocketed. And that's a highly religious state.
Oh, and Mormon, yeah, okay.
But it's not. To me, it's the radicalism. It's the extremism or the perfectionism in it. It's not the religion in itself. It's the perfectionism without grace. That's where people go wrong, and that's cultural. That's a cultural problem. So we can really look at it all and go, well, anywhere where the culture is kind of radicalized and without lenience, where there is social shunning, a lot of rejection, abandonment, and disapproval, that might be a high rate of coping mechanisms. So addiction, body image issues. I don't know. I haven't even looked at it. But that's a great question to look at is, where are these people from? Eating disorders are everywhere because humans are everywhere. And I think eating disorders or the syndrome is inherent to starvation and any place that promotes famine, you know? So famine has a high occurrence in California. Makes sense? There's a lot. I have a lot of clients out of Russia. I have actually a few. You'd be surprised.
Interesting.
Misogyny. That's a high rate of misogyny, which is male supremacy over females, over women. And so women are there to be sexual objects, and their value is based. And there's more women than men, so having sexual appeal would be a value. So the concept of those thoughts would then project into the need to stay thin or be thin because that's the current body image type. It's fascinating, don't you think?
It is. It is very fascinating.
Anyways. All right. Well, let's get you scheduled